Hey everybody, and welcome back to Cityscape Brewing. I'm Dennis, and this is my buddy John, better known as the Yeastie Boys.
What? What's up, y'all?
Hey y'all, it's the Yeastie Boys from the future.
We're gonna be brewing up a beer ski today, and we're gonna tell you all about it. But first, we're gonna need you guys to hit that like, that subscribe button, and grab yourself a beer, and we're gonna get after it. What?
Whoop, whoop.
What's a Schwarzbier, you might ask? Well, good question, because I haven't brewed one yet, but my buddy John has brewed one, and he's gonna tell you a little bit about what a Schwarzbier is.
Yeah, so a Schwarzbier on the BJCP guidelines is an 8B. It falls into dark lager category. You shouldn't really pull through too much roastiness in it. Just kind of a malty, chocolatey, smooth, easy drinking beer. I'm a huge dark beer fan, and it's easy to put away like 6 or 10 of them.
So for this particular beer, we're doing this as part of a competition that we do for our local homebrew club, where we do a fantasy draft where we draft beer ingredients. And so once somebody takes a beer ingredient, you can no longer have that ingredient on your team, just like you were drafting a football player in fantasy football. That ingredient is no longer available. And so for this particular beer, we had to draft 9 ingredients for our recipe. So a certain number of base malts, a certain number of hops, and then a bunch of different adjuncts, and then of course a yeast at the end. So maybe if we wanted a different type of malt or hop and it wasn't available, we had to choose something that would have complemented this beer anyway. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so most dark beers too are ales, so you like your porters and your stouts and that kind of stuff, but this is a lager and still dark because you get that color from the Carafa III that we're going to throw in there, but you also get some of that dryness. We got some flaked rice in there too.
Right, so the color you're looking for in it it's not actually black or brown, it's more of a red, ruby red color. When you hold it up to the light, should be clear. But definitely not like a full like black.
And then we got a big dose of dark Munich malt and also the Golden Promise that will kind of be the base malt underneath it all. But that what really gives it the color is that Carafa III and probably a lot of that dark Munich malt.
Yeah. So in addition to those malts, my go-to hops for when I brew a Schwarzbier are Cascade, Hallertau, and Magnum. For this beer, since we were limited in our choices, we did get Cascade, so that's great. And we're using CTZ, Columbus, Tomahawk, and Zeus, which is like a blend of hops. So I thought that would be a good replacement for the Magnum. And then for the yeast, I'll typically pick some kind of a German lager yeast. For this, we're using 3470 Safe Lager.
Yeah, I use that one for a lot of different lagers, including the Pilsner and the Vienna lager video that I've done. So if you want to check that out, go ahead and check those videos out. We'll have them linked in the video description below.
You said we put water in it?
We also put water in it.
Water from a hose.
Yeah. So to really quickly go through the brewing process, I went ahead and milled up all of our grains. In this case, there's no need to pull out those darker grains. We don't use very much of them in this recipe, so you throw that all into the mash. Then we went ahead, John mashed in our grains, and he dropped the first thing of ascorbic acid all over the floor, but don't worry, we got another one, and we poured that one in there. That's going to help preserve the beer overall. I do that, if you've watched any of my videos, I do that for most beers. I think it helps, even in those darker beers or lagers, just help keep the shelf life a little bit longer on those beers. We got our normal recirculation process. We did our batch sparge process after that, doing the same thing, and then we got up to our full boil. At 60 minutes, once we got our boil, we added our Cascade hops, and then we waited all the way down to about 10 minutes. We added some yeast nutrient and a Whirlfloc tablet. And at the 5-minute mark, we added those cocoa nibs we talked about to give it some of that chocolatey flavor towards the end. We make sure that they're all nice and blended into the beer so we don't have anything burning at the bottom of the kettle. Then we go ahead and cool this thing down like normal, transfer it to our fermenter, and pitch our yeast. So now after the brew day, we're gonna come back and we're gonna taste this thing to see how it did. So if it's bad, it's John's recipe and it's his fault.
Yeah.
What's up, y'all? It's back. Our beer is done. and it's time to give that sip, sip, sip sample time.
You can see the riding on the pavement. Young kids, they're growing up in basements.
So we're gonna go, if you know, get that flow in the glass faux show, and then we're gonna taste it.
Preach, teach.
Always they need a new replacement. Decentralized, can't contain it. We're changing lives, yeah, upgrading. Call it suicide of the older generation. What keeps you up at night, yeah.
All right, here it is, you guys, and it is a nice frothy head beer, just freshly poured. We're gonna go in for the aroma and see how it turned out.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Cheers.
What are you picking out?
Yeah, definitely like a pretty strong chocolate, not like dessert beer, but you can definitely tell that there's chocolate in this beer.
Yeah, that kind of chocolatey, malty flavor is what I'm getting to. But the head sticks around a little while, kind of lasts a little kind of off,
nice
brownish head, that kind of thing. But you know, the real trick is the taste. So let's go in for the real thing.
Yeah, go in.
All right, first impressions.
Yeah, so great beer. I think it did miss the mark a little bit as far as like the harshness of it. We added cacao nibs to the boil, and we're thinking that added some astringency and harshness to it. So it's got a little bit of a bitter finish.
Yeah, and it's not overly bitter. It's just got that little bit of a bite that you really didn't want in this one. But to eliminate that, you could just not add the cacao nibs in the end of the boil. You could do it all in the secondary, or because we were doing this as part of the fantasy draft beer and we didn't select chocolate malt, we would have normally just added about a 1/4 pound or so to the grain bill and got that chocolate flavor that way. And so if you're gonna do this recipe, and I'll put this in the video description below, I would suggest using the cacao nibs in the secondary only, or substituting that for about a 1/4 pound of chocolate malt instead, which will be a little bit less of that harsher flavor. It really just adds a little bit of kind of perceived bitterness to it, not super, super astringent, but you don't want that kind of bite in the final beer. But the color and stuff turned out great, I think.
Yeah. It's nice. I like a light finish like I look for in my Schwarzbier. Yeah.
And it's supposed to be clear, and you can't really tell because of how dark this beer is, but it actually is pretty clear. If we were to put this in a cylinder like we were testing for gravity or something like that, you could actually see through it to some extent. It's just very dark, and the fact that, so you're not gonna be able to see that on camera, but it is a light, clean, crisp beer, and still has some of those malty flavors, but there is just that extra little bite. But I do really enjoy it, and the more you drink it, the kind of less that perceived bitterness comes across. So have 2 or 3 glasses and it'll be just fine. All in all, for doing a beer that we didn't really get to select all of the ingredients because we were doing this fantasy draft beer, this one really turned out awesome. Yeah. And wouldn't you know it, that John and I showed up for the competition in these hats and jumpsuits, of course, because we're the Yeastie Boys.
The yeastiest.
Duh. So during the competition, everybody tried everyone else's beers. There was probably, what, 12, 15 different recipes that everybody tried. And we came up with, check it out, second place, y'all. If you ain't second, you're last.
If you ain't second, you're first. Or you're not second. You're first or third,
we didn't want to,
or you didn't place.
We didn't want to blow away the competition too much, so we let somebody else win, and we were really shooting for second place, I think, right?
I didn't vote for us because I thought it wouldn't be fair.
I mean,
even though I thought genuinely that we had the best beer there.
Yeah, we had a pretty good beer, but there were some, decent ones, but it is hard. It makes you think outside of the box for this type of competition. So I was happy with the end result anyway.
And you're starting with a new recipe and you get one shot at it. So if like one thing didn't work out the way you thought it needed to, or you got like old hops or bad yeast, it could throw a wrench in the whole thing.
Yep, but we're happy with the turnout and we get a delicious beer to drink. So cheers. So everybody, if you want to brew this recipe yourself, it'll be in the video description below. Go check that out. Also hit that like and subscribe button. Or if you want to be super awesome, what do you do, John?
Hit the join button to join.
To join as a channel member, and you get those member perks like, viewing this video early as it drops, or getting those brew day sheets, or those exclusive recipes for members only.
Yeah.
So with that, thanks for hanging out with the Yeastie Boys. Happy brewing and cheers.
Cheers.
Hey, thanks for watching my video. You're awesome. You want to be even more awesome? Hit that join button and become a member. You'll get exclusive members-only recipes and other perks like Brew Day sheets, and watch my videos early as they drop before anyone else. So hit that join button below, become a member, and be awesome.